And hopefully we are also mentally prepared to welcome to the program the proprietor of the David Feldman program. That would be David Feldman. David, are you on the line?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I don't know why you were having problems before, but it was fun to watch.
Yes. A man of my youth still being able to figure out how to work Zoom. You seem pissed off today. You kind of negative. Is it okay if can you use a little healthy criticism?
Sure. I mean, if you feel like that's how you want to start this off, go ahead.
And this comes from a place of love. I mean, you just seem angry, and I'm not sure it's good for the country. I think you need to tell people you're kind, Sam. I think it's important to remind your viewers, your listeners, that you have a big heart and that you're kind, and never squander an opportunity when you're on the show to tell people you're kind, because there are a lot of frightened people right now. You were talking about evictions, homelessness, a cratering economy. Sam, you need to remind people now more than ever that Sam Seder is kind. You need to dance more, play more games on the show, play more games, dance more, and tell everyone you're kind. We need that.
I see what you're saying. I think, I mean, okay. I'm kind, and I will try and be more fun. I mean, you sound like you're describing, someone like, I don't know. I mean, let me ask you this.
Yeah, I listen. Can I just say up front before we get into it, because it's so important, and your listeners, they do, they take the cues from you.
Mm-hmm.
Tell everyone you're kind, even strangers. Walk up to a stranger today and say, "Hi, I'm kind." You'll feel so much better. That's my message to all your followers. Tell everyone you're kind.
But don't you think that maybe being kind is probably better than just saying that I'm kind?
I don't understand what you're saying, and I don't understand what that means. Be optimistic too. I'm optimistic. I'm very happy with what's going on. I see nothing but blue skies. And today, I watched Waiting, and you're just kind of nitpicking.
I'm nitpicking. Well, which part was nitpicking?
You're nitpicking.
I'm nitpicking, like I did because of the unemployment stuff. That was nitpicky, and the stuff,
GDP,
the GDP, and the denying of the testing because it was happening in blue states.
Look, have you ever been in a bad relationship where the
Yes.
person wants to get out, and they're like a coiled snake in the grass, just waiting for you to make one little mistake and then jump on it? That's what I feel you're doing with the situation here.
Well, I mean, I guess we may have to agree to disagree. Well, let me ask you this, okay? This week we saw the passing of Herman Cain. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Well,
I'm optimistic.
I'm not sure I follow. You're optimistic about what? I mean he passed away.
Well, I mean, I heard your interview with Digby. Herman Cain, he died. He accepted the results. He didn't say it was rigged. He died, and he accepted it.
Well, I mean,
why can't
how
he's
could
a Republican, and he accepted that he's dead.
That's true.
And I think all the Republicans have accepted that he's dead. And you're talking about rigging, refusal to deal with science and all this negativity. Nobody's saying Herman Cain isn't dead. And so this is a good thing. It's sad that he's died, but I think Herman's death will serve as a wake-up call for Republicans like Herman Cain. I think they're all going to admit that the science is there, and that, you can't gather in public places not wearing a mask. I think Herman Cain learned his lesson. I think he has the introspection to say, you know what? I was wrong. I didn't wear a mask. Now I'm dead. From now on, I wear a mask. I think people like Herman Cain can be moved to say, I'm dead, I'll wear a mask. And unlike you, Sam, I think that's good for the country. I'm not a Republican. I'm not. But I think they are capable of introspection.
Well, no, wait a second. Now, wait a second. I got to take a little issue because I find it hard to believe that Herman Cain is going to be introspective now that he's dead, A. And B, I would say that Louis Gohmert, who was also diagnosed with COVID this week, was anything but introspective. In fact, he not only did not reassess his decision, his attitude towards masks, he started to blame masks for maybe why he got it.
Okay. All right. Look, again, you need to dial it back. I find your tone of voice a little menacing and threatening, and I don't feel safe. That's the first thing I want to say. That I do want to have a conversation with you about politics, but you really need to dial back the subtext of this conversation. Okay, there is a subtext to this conversation that I find a little disconcerting. Okay, I hope we're talking.
I think there's multiple subtexts of this conversation that I'm finding disconcerting. To be frankly.
Okay. You know that I'm a Bernie supporter, right?
Of course.
You know
yes.
That.
No, I know.
From way back. From where I was there. Okay. But you have to reach across the aisle, and you got to pass legislation. You talk about pragmatism, and you have to, Louis Gohmert. I don't know where you stand politically. I'm sure you and he don't see eye to eye on everything, but you have to admit he loves this country just as much as I hate it. So that makes him a true patriot. Louis Gohmert loves America as much as I loathe it, and that's a lot. And for you to attack and make fun of Louis Gohmert, I know you're kind. Where dumb, he got the. Hey, he's an inspiration to even lefties like me. Louis Gohmert. How many of your friends? How many people do you know can be kicked in the head by a mule while still in his mother's womb, get born, get kicked in the head by that same mule again and again and again, and grow up to become a United States congressman? Louis Gohmert is an inspiration to all Americans who keep getting kicked in the head by a mule. And for you to giggle over his health, I mean, it's just unseemly. And that's not how you pass the important legislation that we need right now at a time like this. We need kind legislation. We need dancing and games and gifts, giveaways, and dancing and kindness. That's what we need.
Well, now wait a second, David. I need to take a little issue here. First off, I have not giggled about Louis Gohmert. I mean, I've laughed. I have. I guess I've laughed. I guess I've full on laughed. I haven't quite giggled. But nevertheless, also, we don't need Louis Gohmert to pass any legislation. He is a member of the House. The House has a majority of Democrats. The House has passed many, I think maybe over 100 pieces of legislation, well into I'm not sure, but at least dozens of pieces of legislation without Louis Gohmert voting for a single one of those bills. Now, they all died in the Senate, but Louis Gohmert's not in the Senate. So you're wrong on both points.
And do you laugh when those bills die in the Senate? Do you mock those deaths as well? The way you mock the deaths of Republicans? I mean, look.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No. I think
let the anger out.
I think, frankly, I think there's reason for anger to be here, and I'm curious as to how you maintain this sort of like even keel.
Because the sun shines on me. Chris Matthews always talked about certain political types who always seem to walk in the sun. And I have a sunny disposition, and I'm not as smart as you. I'm just a small town country Jew. And, we have to listen. We have to listen to the other side. Louis Gohmert.
David, where did you grow up?
In a small town, very small town.
Name?
Very small town.
What was the name of the place that you grew up?
It was a small town, Greenwich, Connecticut. I had to share a floor with my maid. Are we allowed to call them maids? But it was, I know what these people go through because I lived on the third floor with my maid, and
you were in the maid
next to hers.
Maid quarters wing of the house.
Yeah.
Okay.
And my bathroom was right up against hers.
Right.
And, so I know, anyway, that's not the point, Sam. Louis Gohmert, we need to listen to the other side. And he said something interesting about his COVID-19. He blamed his COVID-19 on what?
Masks.
Do you even listen?
Yes,
huh?
Masks.
Good for you. See, now, I didn't think somebody like you was capable of listening to the other side. That's how you get, that's bipartisan. And, I'm not a scientist, so I should talk about this. I have noticed, now, do you have a pen? Maybe you could.
I do.
Maybe you could learn something. Okay. Write this down and do the math. Louis Gohmert says he got the COVID-19 from the mask.
Mm-hmm.
You you see what's going on. Have you noticed that the more you see people wearing masks, the more of a spike you see in COVID-19? Do you understand cause and relationship?
I do. I don't think that's exactly what you're talking about.
Everyone is wearing a mask, even the president. And what happens? More COVID-19.
Right. I don't think that's the sequence I don't think you've got the sequence correct, David. But I listen, I don't want to haggle over this. One of the things I actually wanted to talk about was in light of, Louis Gohmert apparently not telling his staff that he had COVID, in light of the fact that the Robert O'Brien, I think it is, the national security advisor, not telling his staff that he had it. I've got to say that I've heard of similar dynamics around the David Feldman show. Now, this was not something I was going to get into because I didn't want to get into a hostile, disposition with you, but you seem to sense that there is one anyways. So I thought I'd bring it up.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't think I was going to be ambushed on your show. I thought this was good. Boy, you really do. I don't know what's going on over there, but you are, about 24 former employees who range from long-time senior level executives on my show to production assistants to the kids I keep in cages. They have stepped forward to imply that there's a toxic work environment on my show. And I'm listening. I'm listening. I am listening to them. I think it's important to listen.
How much are you taking this to heart? I mean, you're listening, but are you will you share with us exactly what they're talking about in terms of this?
I rather not.
Well, no, I know you would rather not.
I wouldn't ask you.
I got to be honest with you. Nobody has made such complaints.
Yeah, I know, but I heard something happened on your show that I'm not asking about, but
like what?
I don't know. People were crying. I don't really know. A lot of crying, a lot of weeping going on at your show.
Yeah,
deep crying, sad. But I don't ask. It's none of my business.
Right.
Going on.
Well,
but very sad, crying people.
You
stop for about 10 days.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about me. I've been accused of being handsy. And now I'm of a generation. I'm older than you. And so maybe I am handsy. Looking back at and I'm listening. At my behavior, I now realize perhaps I'm handsy. It's sneaking up behind one of my employees and wrapping my fingers around his or her neck and constricting the flow of oxygen to their brain because they were wearing sneakers to the office. I now, in retrospect, realize that that could be misconstrued as handsy, and I'm listening.
And what are you going to do about it? I mean, what you're describing is you're attempting to choke one of your employees.
No. Handsy. That is being, hang on, choke. See?
Well, you're being chokesy. You're being a little bit chokesy, if you will.
Chokesy.
Yeah.
You're accusing me of being chokesy. My generation, I'm older than you, we call it handsy. And when you say chokesy, I take offense because there was never anything sexual in nature when I did that. There was nothing. It was handsy, not chokesy. There was nothing sexual in that. And I hate the implication. I think you've crossed a line with me to say that was purely intended to restrict the flow of oxygen to the brain so that they would get the message not to wear sneakers to the office. And for you to say that that's chokesy,
I mean,
Jesus.
It's almost like definitionally chokesy. I'm curious as to if that's not chokesy, what would be considered chokesy in your mind?
Because I was not aroused by this. If it were chokesy, there would be, flowers sent afterwards and money exchanged.
Right.
This was purely about enforcing workplace dress codes. No sneakers in the office. Now, if that, looking back, I am listening, and I'm going to, reevaluate how I interact with the people who make eye contact with me, even though they've been told specifically, don't look at me in the eyes. I don't know why that's so hard for people who you pay to understand, don't look at me in the eyes, or go home and take a shower, or have a breath mint. I mean, these are things that, in order for me to be an artist, and I'm kind. You know that I'm kind.
Well,
right?
you've said that.
Yeah. How am I going to be kind if people are looking at me in the eyes?
David, let me ask you this. You say that you have listened and you are contemplating, like, what do you think you're going to do differently now? I mean,
I think,
are you going to continue to restrict the ability for people to get oxygen to their brains if they are not wearing the proper footwear?
Okay, now I feel you're trivializing my identity and my struggle. That question is really, I've been through a lot, and I've been brave. And for you to ask that kind of question just dismisses decades of my work with my identity. And I really think you've crossed a line here. I mean, I came on, and you're just looking to humiliate me. And why would you bring up my identity?
I'm afraid I don't think I did, David.
Oh, now you're erasing my identity.
I'm not.
You're just saying okay, I get it. Now you've just erased all memory of my identity. Okay, fine. You've revealed who you are, Sam, and it says a lot.
But by referencing your identity, is it because I used your name when I addressed you? Would you feel better if I asked that question without saying David?
I think you need to look in the mirror and question some of your preconceived notions about my identity.
Well, I'll just call you. Would you prefer if I just called you Feldman?
There you go. Okay, fine. Moving on. Let's change the subject, Sam, because I think you're digging a hole.
All right.
I think
you want to
you're
change
digging
the
a
subject?
hole, and if you dig any deeper, you're going to strike a sweatshop in China. If you dig any deeper.
I'm going to ignore that comment. Were there things in the news this week, David, that you wanted to discuss beyond the fact that you think that, I don't know, that, you're dealing with your own accusations of trying to restrict the blood flow to people's brains because of footwear? Is there Bill Barr, have you been paying attention to the news?
Yes. And I think that people should limit their social gatherings to 50, unless you kind of think the other 20 are, clear. Wear a mask when you can, and, try not to share a joint with somebody. Stay at least, 5 inches away from strangers. And
are you social distancing? I mean, in the past, I've spoken to you. You said you were social distancing. Have you been social distancing?
I go to parties. I believe in freedom. I'm a people person. I'm a lefty, and we're social animals, and I just sometimes worry that the cure could be worse than the disease. So it's a balancing act, and I just people need to be smart. People need to be smart right now. We need to think and stay 6 inches away from strangers. And don't spit in other people's mouths. That whole thing where we used to walk up to people and say, "Hi, how are you?" I find handshakes are much safer in this age of COVID. I don't know. In my culture, I've abandoned some of my.
I
my
do
habits.
recall that was your sort of methodology. But the spitting thing is a cultural thing, and maybe you should be a little more sensitive.
I have told the people in my culture that, yes, it's a sign of affection to when you see somebody, especially somebody you don't know, to spit in their mouth. And I've told the people of my identity to go to shaking hands, to learn how to shake hands.
Would you be more specific on your identity? I'm curious as to.
Oh my God, that is a question. I think that is a question that is inappropriate to ask what my identity is. I mean, you've crossed the line there. Yeah. I have an identity, and I want it respected, and I want you to be fearful around me and watch every word you say.
Well, I do that anyways, David. I also am nervous about the spitting, frankly, when I'm around you, to be honest.
But that's a cultural. So you don't respect my culture.
No, I do respect your culture. I just don't want your saliva in my mouth.
But that's what we do. And we are dialing it back. But if you tell me that you're offended by it or you think that it's not right, then I feel that maybe I should go back to spitting in people's mouths to make a statement so my culture doesn't get erased.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Dave,
I think you need to think a lot about how you interact with people like me.
Yeah.
And I think you need to listen. I think you need to listen and be optimistic and kind. Tell people you're kind.
I will. I'm going to tell people I'm kind. I am going to definitely give some serious thought about interacting with you. I can promise you that.
Okay.
Serious thought.
All right.
Well,
I
David,
did it. Thank you. You know what? I in all seriousness, I'm being serious now. I didn't know whether or not I could come back. I'm being David Feldman now.
Okay.
But, yeah. In all seriousness, I have never, ever since I've been doing my show, I was getting emails about him, and it was unbelievable. And I just, in all seriousness, I want to
Michael.
Thank you for introducing me to him. And I wouldn't have been able to. Anyway, thank you.
Well, I can tell you that I don't know if we have had a guest on that Michael got more excited about having on than well, probably a couple, but certainly you were up there.
Yeah, last time I said I am not going to bail on the bit. I'm going to commit to it. Well,
you got all the way through it. You got all the way through it.
Yeah, I got all. You deserve credit for introducing him to me, and thank you for that.
Well, yes, so. I will. Will take credit for introducing you two. But like I say, he.
Okay.
All right. Well, Dave,
can I see my you're keeping one of my kids? Do I get to ever see my 24-year-old daughter, or is that just?
I don't know what you're talking about now.
When does this end? When do I get my? I'd like to see my daughter.
Well, I am not responsible for what the authorities have decided in regards to your children, David. I'm not.
Okay, but you have a big mouth. That's all I'm saying.
David Feldman, always a pleasure, man. I'll talk to you soon.
I want to see my kids.
Goodbye, David.
Why can't you keep your mouth shut, Sam?
Goodbye, David. I'm sorry. I just, goodbye. Sometimes you see some atrocities that are going on. David Feldman, ladies and gentlemen. Check out the David Feldman.
No, and remember, nobody likes a snitch.
Right. I know that. I've been told that. I'm sorry. Sometimes you got to sometimes you got to be a mandatory reporter. Goodbye, David. Thank you very much. I appreciate the call. There it is, ladies and gentlemen. David Feldman. David Feldman.